Welcome to the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio. We've got a fast-paced hour of fishing, hunting, and conservation covering the nation and the Northwest, including 13 extra minutes of local content you'll only hear on Seattle's sports radio, KJR.
It's Saturday morning, and as always, I'm glad you're here. We're starting things off with an important programming note. Next week, there's going to be an early game between the University of Washington Huskies and Iowa, which means the pregame show is going to start at 5 a.m. on KJR 93.3, preempting our show on that station. So if you want to hear our show next week, just go to AM 950 KJR. That's our old home that we were at a few years ago. And tune into our show at a regular airtime of 7 to 8 a.m. there. Again, next Saturday only from 7 to 8 a.m. We've got some great regional guests for you today. At the bottom of the hour, you're going to hear from Steve Worley. He's with the Worley Bugger Fly Company out of Ellensburg, and he's going to give you an October fly fishing forecast and report for the Yakima River, Washington's only blue ribbon trout stream. You want to stick around for the end of the show, too, because Shelby Ross, the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures and a Max Lure Pro Guide, is going to tell you about some unique cast and blast opportunities he's offering between October 12th, opening day, and the end of October, where you hunt ducks in the morning, have a delicious meal of duck kebabs or duck poppers, and then go fishing for walleye in the afternoon. If you're looking for a great cast and blast, and I've done this one, you're going to love it. This portion of the show is brought to you every week by your Puget Sound area Sportsman's Warehouse stores with locations in Puyallup, Federal Way, Everett, Silverdale, and Sequim. They've all got the gear you need, and there's a couple sales going on right now at Sportsman's Warehouse. One of them is a hunting clearance sale. And with hunting season upon us, you want to take advantage of this. They've also got a sale on Eureka, tents and camping gear up to 50% off. And if you can't find that at the store, you can find that online at sportsmans.com. Waterfowl season in Washington State opens up next weekend. I'm pretty excited. But I'll tell you what, I've been doing some scouting in the Columbia Basin, and I'm glad I have been. A lot of honey holes that I've hunted over the years in terms of potholes and small ponds, they've dried up due to long-term drought conditions. So you might want to do a little scouting this week. If you're going to be hunting over in eastern Washington, make sure that your honey hole has still got some water in it. Now, while I'm going to be duck hunting next weekend, a whole lot of other folks are going to be deer hunting because that's the general opener for the modern firearm season. Now, a lot of folks are going to be heading to northeast Washington, specifically Ferry, Stevens, and Pend Oreille counties, because there's a lot of white-tailed deer there, checking the WDFW hunting prospects. Some of the better game management units to hunt include Game Management Unit 121, where modern firearms hunters had nearly a 27% success rate. Game Management Unit 105 was even better, with over 28% of hunters harvesting a deer. If you are hunting in northeast Washington, keep in mind that chronic wasting disease was detected north of Spokane, and you want to check the regs about chronic wasting disease. Be sure to stop at any game station you see and have your deer tested. Another popular place to hunt is in north central Washington's Okanogan County, home to the state's largest mule deer herd. Biologists there say a slightly lower than average estimated fawn recruitment from last year likely means a modest decrease in the 2.5-year-old buck cohort for this fall. On a brighter note, deer hunting was very good last year in District 10. That's Cowlitz, Lewis, and Wahkiakum counties. Hunters there harvested 3,500 deer last year, 1,000 more than the previous year. And the total harvest success rate over the last 5 years has been nearly 25%. So, might want to save yourself a trip over the mountains and head to southwest Washington instead. Last but not least, winter crabbing season is open in the Sound as of October 1st. You can crab 7 days a week in Marine Area 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-1, 8-2, in Marine Area 9, Admiralty Inlet. You can also crab in Marine Area 12, Hood Canal, but only in the portion north of Ayock Point. It's important to note that crabbing's not open yet for Marine Area 10 and Marine Area 11. Make sure you keep your crab pots out of the way of ferry lanes if you go crabbing. And with that, you are now in the know about what's hot and what's not this week in the Pacific Northwest.
That's your first local shot of the outdoors. Now let's see what's going on across the nation.
It's time for America Outdoors Radio, the show that covers the outdoor scene across the U.S. of A. and the entire continent. Fishing, hunting, conservation, outdoor recreation, and great destinations. We cover it all every week. It's your country, your outdoors. Let's explore it together with your host, John Kruse.
Welcome to the show. I was on the road last week and I was somewhere pretty special. It was the Lewis and Clark Valley. It's located on the border of southeast Washington and north central Idaho. It borders the Snake River, and it's the gateway into Hell's Canyon, North America's deepest gorge. We were staying in Clarkston, Washington, but spent some time over in Lewiston, Idaho, right across the river. And as you might imagine from the names of these towns, the Lewis and Clark expedition looms large over this valley because the expedition spent some significant time here on their journey to the Pacific Ocean. Now, a lot of folks come here to get on a jet boat and explore Hell's Canyon. It's North America's deepest gorge. Most people think Grand Canyon's the deepest, but no, it's Hell's Canyon right here. And it's a narrow gorge that offers lots of whitewater, and these jet boats will take you through the whitewater, but they'll also show you lots of history. There's so much history in this area here, along with a lot of wildlife, and at certain times of year, some beautiful foliage too. I didn't go on the jet boat tour this time. I've been on it several times before. No, I opted to go steelhead and salmon fishing on the Clearwater River. Now, the Clearwater flows into the Snake River right at Lewiston, Idaho. And I got to go fishing with guide Lyle Draper from Real Time Fishing. On board with me was Steve and Thea Walden from Idaho, as well as well-known outdoors columnist and writer Alan Leary. He calls Spokane home and has written for the Spokesman Review for years. Now, the Clearwater River is pretty special because it has not only fall Chinook salmon and coho salmon this time of year, but also steelhead. And we're not talking just your 6 to 10 pound steelhead. No, we're talking big B-run steelhead that stay out in the saltwater an extra year or two and come back weighing anywhere from 14 to 20 pounds. The fishing was not fast and furious when we went on our trip, but we had 6 good takedowns and hookups. And we got 3 fish in. All of them were B-run steelhead. Thea got in a nice 13, 14-pound steelhead. Alan Leary, well, his steelhead was about 16 pounds. And I got a stout 35-incher that weighed about 18 pounds. Tied my personal best for a steelhead, also caught several years ago on the Clearwater River. While I was there, I also visited Hell's Gate State Park. Lots of wildlife there, great place to go camping. And also at the park is an interpretive center where you can find out about the Lewis and Clark expedition, as well as a Jack O'Connor Hunting, Heritage, and Education Center dedicated to the legacy of Jack O'Connor, arguably America's most famous hunting and shooting writer from the 20th century. It was a great few days, and we did it as part of a conference for the Northwest Outdoor Writers Association. And my thanks go out to Michelle Peters, who is the president and CEO of Visit Lewis Clark Valley, for setting up this trip for the members of our little outdoor writers organization. We had a lot of fun between the jet boat trips, the fishing trip, some good food, and some good fellowship too. Michelle's actually going to join us towards the end of the show today to tell you more about things you can do outdoors in the Lewis Clark Valley. It's definitely a must-visit destination. If you want to find out more now, just click on lcvalley.com. That's the website for Lewis Clark Valley, and you'll see some of the things that we're going to be talking about towards the end of our program today. Another guest we're going to have on today is Dac Collins. He's a returning guest from Outdoor Life. He was on recently talking about wolves and cougars in Colorado. Well, this time he's going to give you the details of an incident at a duck blind in Wisconsin where a teenager shot and killed a wolf at point-blank range. It was part of a pack of wolves that were encircling the blind and getting ready to attack. It's an incredible story you're not going to want to miss, and we're going to share that with you in just a few minutes. I mentioned that I was attending the Northwest Outdoor Writers Conference while I was in Lewiston and Clarkston. And during the same weekend, OWAA, the Outdoor Writers Association of America, held their conference in El Paso, Texas. And like I mentioned last week, we won 6 different awards in the Excellence in Craft contest. One of them was in the fishing category. It was an interview with Glenn May with BassResource.com about successful fishing from the back of the bass boat. It's the co-angler position in a lot of tournaments. There's a certain etiquette involved. in being the co-angler, and there's certain ways you can do very well from the back of the boat too. We are going to re-air that award-winning interview for you today. By the way, this portion of the show is brought to you by our friends at WorkSharp. A lot of folks are fishing, a lot of folks are hunting, and one thing they have in common is they need sharp knives. That's why you should take advantage of the knives you can take with you in your car, your truck, your boat, or even on your person. We're talking about the brand new folding knife sharpener. We're talking about the guided field sharpener. We're talking about the pocket knife sharpener. And if you've got electricity, there's all sorts of electric knife sharpeners they have available too, both for your shop and for the kitchen. You can check out the entire lineup at worksharptools.com. That's worksharptools.com. Next up,
it's time for the Trail of Shame.
Shame, shame on you. Shame, shame on you.
Stories of poachers, scoundrels, and other ne'er-do-wells, so if you see someone committing a criminal act on the water or in the field, turn them in. It's the right thing to do.
From USA Today, we've got a story about cloning gone very wrong when it comes to hunting. A Montana rancher has been sentenced to 6 months in jail after cloning a near-threatened sheep from Asia and then selling its offspring to shooting preserves, according to court documents. Arthur Jack Sherbarth, 81 years old, will spend 6 months in a federal prison with a 3-year supervised release and pay a $20,000 fine and a $4,000 community service payment for cloning the Marco Polo sheep from Kyrgyzstan. Shubarth was sentenced Monday for committing 2 felonies, conspiracy to violate the Lacey Act and substantively violating the Lacey Act, according to the Department of Justice. The Lacey Act is a law that bans the trafficking of illegally taken wildlife, fish, and plants. Shubarth and at least 5 other people conspired to create a large hybrid species of sheep that would garner higher prices from shooting preserves from 2013 to 2021, according to the Justice Department. Well, Jack, I doubt they're going to serve you a rack of lamb in prison, but if they do, it'll probably be the closest you get to sheep for quite a while.
Shame on you.
From the Outdoor Wire, we've got some economic news and an editorial from Paul Earhart, the managing editor of the Outdoor Wire. We learned that Bidenomics, which you may also call Joeflation, has had an effect on sporting good purchases. The National Association of Sporting Goods Wholesalers reports September 2024's revised summary forecast show that handgun purchases are down 15 to 20%. Rifle purchases are flat to down 5%, shotguns down 5 to 10%, and overall firearms down 10 to 15%. Ammo, as you might imagine, is also down 5 to 8%, and so are optics 5 to 10%. The good news about this, manufacturers might be having some big sales during Amazon's Prime Days, October 8th and 9th. These won't include firearms, but accessories and optics will certainly be on the deals menu, so keep an eye out for that. Finally, waterfowl season is upon us, and that means it's time to stock up on ammo. And Browning has got a great deal for you when it comes to getting some rebates on ammunition for waterfowl. For a limited time, consumers can earn $5 back for each box of eligible Browning waterfowl loads that they purchase. The total maximum rebate is $150 per household. The offer is valid on qualifying purchases made between October 1st and November 30th. The eligible waterfowl ammo brands include Wicked Blend, Wicked Wing XD, and Wicked Wing. You can visit browningammo.com to submit your rebate. But wait, there's more. Winchester Ammunition is also offering a waterfowl ammunition rebate. Again, you can earn $5 back for each box of Winchester Expert waterfowl loads purchased and earn $7 back if you buy the Winchester Blindside 2 and Dry Lock loads. The total maximum rebate, just like Browning, is $150. The website to go to for this rebate, winchester.com/rebates. Stick around in just a minute. We're going to share that award-winning interview with Glenn May from BassResource.com about how to be a successful co-angler fishing, whether for fun or in a tournament setting.
Come explore the Dalles in Oregon for outdoors fun. Hike amongst the wildflowers, bike our riverfront trail, or visit the Gorge Discovery Center where you can enjoy a live raptor display, or even check out our National Neon Sign Museum. But don't forget the fishing. We've got salmon, steelhead, bass, walleye, and monster-sized sturgeon waiting just for you. When the day is done, tell those tall tales at one of our wineries, breweries, or restaurants and plan your next adventure. Find out more at explorethedalles.com.
John Kruse here, looking to improve your bottom line as a business that caters to outdoors enthusiasts. You can do so for a very cost-effective price by advertising on America Outdoors Radio. I will tailor a marketing campaign for you, reaching hundreds of thousands of listeners every weekend tuning into our show on 135 stations in 33 states. We've got a sponsor opening right now, so contact me through my website at americaoutdoorsradio.com and let's talk about helping you.
Ready to step up to a quality-built rifle or shotgun that's a true classic? Check out Henry Repeating Arms. American-made. There's over 150 models to choose from in a variety of finishes and calibers for hunters and target shooters. Many of these are lever-action models with a classic look right out of the Old West. Don't be deceived, though. Henry Repeating Arms are modern, rugged, reliable, and have a lifetime guarantee. Find out more and order a free catalog today at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com.
Hunting and fishing are exercises in hope. Before you head into the woods, you hope to tag out on a deer you'll have to field dress. Before you make that first cast, you hope for a big fish to clean and fillet. When your hopes are realized, you'll need a sharp knife. Whether you sharpen that blade on a power sharpener in the shop or a manual sharpener in the field, Work Sharp has the tool for you. Look for Work Sharp products in sporting goods stores near you or online at worksharptools.com.
Targeting kokanee? Then tie on a double whammy kokanee Pro from Max Lure. Built like the tried and true wedding ring spinner, the double whammy kokanee Pro has a double hook tie, high VU beads, a wedding ring band, and an ultralight smile blade. It's the perfect lure to fish at any time of the year and shines in the early season when water temps are cold and you're trolling at a slow speed. Look for the double whammy kokanee Pro at a sporting goods store or online at maxlure.com.
Come to Mardon Resort for some great fishing. Potholes Reservoir has been named as one of the top 10 bass lakes in the western U.S. by Bassmaster Magazine. There's also great fishing for walleye, quality rainbow trout, panfish, catfish, and more. Don't have a boat? Don't worry. If you're staying at the resort, you can fish at the marina or explore the Seep Lake south of the reservoir for good fishing and a beautiful scenic landscape. Plan your trip today by going to mardonresort.com. That's mardonresort.com.
This year, resolve to immerse yourself into the great outdoors. Whether you're learning to hunt, fish, hike, camp, paddle, or grill, or are looking to take yourself to the next level, the place to go for the gear you need is Sportsman's Warehouse. With over 145 stores around the nation, Sportsman's Warehouse is truly America's premier outfitter. Find a store near you or shop online anytime at sportsmans.com. That's sportsmans.com for Sportsman's Warehouse.
Northwest Oregon's Tillamook Coast is not only the place to go for cheese and ice cream, but also for outdoors fun. Hook into a salmon in Tillamook Bay or one of the rivers flowing into it. Harvest tasty clams from our bays and pull up a crabarine or pot full of big, Dungeness crab. Visit our parks, walk the beaches, explore our forests, and enjoy our coastal communities. You are going to love it here. Plan your trip today at tillamookcoast.com. That's tillamookcoast.com.
I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it. Gonna get up before the sun rise above us. Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. We've got Glenn May on the line. He is the man behind bassresource.com. It is literally one of my go-to places when it comes to learning to be a better bass angler. He's got articles, he's got lots of videos, and you will definitely up your game if you check out bassresource.com. Glenn, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, John. I appreciate it.
So I was watching one of your videos yesterday about doing well as a co-angler, fishing out of the back of the boat. And this is very important to me right now because I'm going to be a co-angler at a tournament at Potholes Reservoir during the Limit Out Marine Pro-Am event that's happening this week. Before we get into how to be successful as a co-angler, let's go over some etiquette. I want to make sure I don't screw anything up as a co-angler here. What are some things that I should be aware of as a co-angler fishing with a pro?
Oh, my goodness, John, we can talk about this for hours. I'll distill it down to like 3 main points because it's really important. First of all, a lot of guys, as a boater, they'll leave a storage compartment or 2 available for you for your gear. Don't assume that you have that because some don't. So the best thing to do is downsize your gear and bring a small tackle bag that carries like 4 or 5 plain old 3700 size boxes. That should be enough for a day of fishing. That should be plenty. You don't need a suitcase full of lures for a day of fishing. And only bring about 4 or 5 rods. Don't bring your whole arsenal. You should be good to go for an entire day of fishing. So that's like key number 1 is just downsize your equipment. Number 2 is this isn't your boat. This is someone else's baby. So treat it like it's your own. And that may sound like common sense, but some things that are easy to miss. For example, if you have tennis shoes or shoes that have an aggressive grip, you might be easy to track on some dirt or mud or gravel, that sort of thing. So just make sure you stomp your feet and get all that off when you get on this boat. And just be careful where you step when you get in on the back of the boat, that you don't step on the seats, because sometimes some guys get pretty upset about that, and for good reason. You can leave marks on the seats if you got a lot of gravel or something in your shoes. And then also when you bring something to eat, pay attention, make some good choices there. Bring things that don't leave crumbs, for example, like peanuts and sunflower seeds, crackers. Probably not a good choice. I would do something more along the lines of, power bars and things like that. I've seen guys talk about backseaters. Well, I knew one guy who left a pile of peanut shells in the backseat of his boat. It's like, oh my goodness, So just make some smart choices there.
All right. I know a couple of the rules. Number 1, never cast in front of the angler or in the front of the boat unless he says you can. And I'm going to be giving that pro some gas money too, because that's the right thing to do. It's his boat and his gas. Fishing out of the back of the boat, I'll be honest, I'm doing this at this tournament because, frankly, I'm hoping to be fishing with an angler that's better than me and I can learn from that person. Is that the right mindset to have?
It can be. You can always learn from each other. There's always that opportunity. But when I'm in the back of the boat, I don't go with that mindset that, hey, it's the guy in the front of me is always better and he's always going to have better decisions. Instead, I look at it like, hey, I know my casting, I know my skills, I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to show this guy a thing or two. I think that I'm actually going to be catching more fish than him, and I'm going to show him how to do it. Okay, that's not an attitude. That's not a goal, but that's a mindset. So so a lot of guys think that they're just fishing used water and they're doing cleanup, but go in with that mindset instead, and I promise you, you'll be a lot more successful.
Let's talk about another subject, though, when it comes to fishing out of the back of the boat, and this applies not just to tournament situations, but any situation. If you're just fishing with your buddy, and your buddy, is in the front of the boat with the trolling motor and deciding where the boat's going to go, how do you catch fish when you're basically got second shot at the water that's being fished? You're not the first person to fish it, your buddy is.
Yeah, let's blow away the whole notion that you're fishing used water, first of all. That's kind of a misnomer. And think about it this way. If you got 10 bass in this confined area and you make multiple casts to them with the same lure, you're going to pick up a few of those, but not all of them. And now you drop that lure and you throw something else, and you might pick up a few more after a few casts, but again, not all of them. Well, why is that? Well, all the bass in a given area don't have the same disposition. Some will be aggressive, some will be lethargic, some will be more apt to bite flashy, fast-moving lures, where others are more apt to bite slow-moving lures. So at any given time, the guy in the front of the boat, he is only appealing to a small segment of all the bass that are in the area. So that's a key concept to keep in mind. So for you as a backseater, don't mimic what he's doing, but instead throw something completely different. If he's throwing a crankbait, pick up a spinnerbait or swim jig. If he's fishing really slow, find something that fishes a little bit faster, or a topwater lure or something like that. Same thing with casting. Don't throw where he's been casting, because especially if he's not catching fish. Right? Because if he keeps casting these prime areas and he's not catching the fish, he's telling you where the fish aren't and what's not working. So why mimic that?
Okay, great advice there. I absolutely love that. And I guess that really explains why you should never throw the same thing that the pro or the guy in the front of the boat is throwing. I've never actually heard it broken down that way. I've always heard you should not throw the same thing, but not the way you just broke it down. So that's good to know. Let's talk about scenarios where maybe somebody is fishing right up on the bank, or right into the grass or right into the willows, and because you're in the back of the boat, you just don't have a shot at that. What do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. Bass boats are shaped kind of like a bullet, right? So when the guy in the front, he's actually a little bit further away and has a better ability to cast at those targets, where you're at the back, you might be right on top of that. So where this comes into play is casting. One thing in bass fishing is that you can practice casting, and there's 5 main casts to master. There's an overhand cast, the sidearm cast, flipping and pitching, skipping, and the backhand cast. And it's not just accuracy with those casts, but also your presentation. You want that lure to softly go in the water as much as possible. If you can master that, I promise you, you'll be able to get your lure in places where the front seater can't, and you'll be able to be more accurate and with a better presentation. So even if it may seem like you blocked off, you can fish, spots behind the boat or on the other side of the boat. That's a lot of guys won't do that. They'll switch over, fish the opposite side of the boat. You can have lots of opportunities back there. There's always a depth finder at the console, right? Pay attention to that, because if you're using side scan, look on the other side of the boat. You might see a rock or a hump or a lock or something that the front seater didn't see, and make that cast. You can catch a fish off that. So it's all about paying attention, being really observant, and capitalizing on the opportunities that are presented to you.
And I'm guessing that just like 10 bass in a certain area might not react to the same lure the same way, not all the bass are going to be right in one area. In other words, not all the bass are going to be on those rocks or in that grass. There's always going to be some that are going to be deeper. And I guess if you're a back boater, you can capitalize on that.
Absolutely. As a front seater myself, I've had the back seater do better than me simply by dragging a Carolina rig behind the boat. Like, I'm throwing the shoreline, and he's catching a bunch of fish behind me, or he's dragging it out on the deeper part of the water. I've actually fished a tournament where I changed my entire tactics because he was catching more fish than me, and we backed out, went out to deeper water, and both of us started catching a bunch of fish. So don't think that you have to always throw the same areas, same lures, same places as the front seater. You could actually maybe even find a better pattern than what he's doing.
Okay. Well, great advice for fishing out of the back of the boat, whether you're fishing a tournament or whether you're fishing for fun. You can definitely catch them in the back of the boat. And like Glenn said, sometimes you'll catch more than the guy in the front of the boat. And if you want to find out more, go to bassresource.com. I've got to ask, what new videos are going to be coming out that we can expect to see?
Oh, great question. I have a video I'm working on right now, the 10 top lures that you should always have.
Nice.
So I'm working on that one. And I have another one for you boaters. It's all about what motor toters to use, which are the best ones to use, and what not to do for towing your boat down the highway.
Those sound like great videos, and there's already a ton of them out there, including a great one I was watching last night about fishing out of the back of the boat. Definitely worth watching. All sorts of great tips, more than you heard here even. Glenn, thanks so much for making the time today. Keep up the great work. I sure appreciate it.
Well, thanks again, John. I appreciate being in your show.
Got a bamboo pole and a leaky boat. It ain't much, but if you bail, it'll float. I'm gonna take you fishing, honey. You're gonna love it.
I'm Anthony Imperato, president of Henry Repeating Arms. Patriotic Americans are looking to protect and provide for their families now more than ever. Henry has over 200 rifles and shotguns to choose from. Made in America or not made at all. And backed by a lifetime guarantee. Order a free catalog, decals, and a list of Henry dealers in your area. Go to henryusa.com or call 1-800-958-4993. Thank you, and God bless America.
The Dalles in Oregon is your base camp for fishing fun. Reel in big salmon, tangle with steelhead, bass, and walleye, or wrestle a monster sturgeon to the boat. After the day is done, you'll find a variety of lodging options around town. Plan your fishing getaway today at explorethedalles.com. That's explorethedalles.com.
Ready for more local fishing and hunting? You got it. It's the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio, KJR.
Next up, we got Steve Worley on the line. He is the owner of the Worley Bugger Fly Company. It's a fly shop in Ellensburg, Washington, that also offers guided fishing on Washington's only blue ribbon trout stream, the Yakima River. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, Steve, you put out weekly fishing reports on your YouTube channel, but I wanted to have you share some highlights from the end of September with our listeners today.
Well, just the fishing's been fantastic, but you have to be aware, like, the river is seasonably low. Like, in my 30 years of working on the river, I've never seen the river this low before. So our annual stream flows are usually around 1,200 cubic feet, and today they're running, in most places they're running below 300 cubic feet. Some of the other areas of the river, like the popular Yakima River Canyon south of Ellensburg, it's below 800 cubic feet today. So for those people that want to come over and wade fish the river, it's really a paradise right now. For people boating the river, you got to be, extremely careful because there's just a lot of stuff that's usually submerged, underwater that's now exposed. And it makes it a little bit more difficult, a little more demanding on the rower.
What kind of flies or nymphs would you recommend for folks that want to come over and fish this week?
So in the month of October, we're kind of winding down on a big stonefly hatch. Our crane fly hatch will probably, come to a conclusion, sometime around this week. But the October caddis are starting up. And then it's a big mayfly show through the month of October with blue-wing olives, mahogany duns, light cahills. So we still have a lot of really fantastic fly fishing left here for the month of October.
And what part of the river would you recommend fishing this month? Are we talking up towards Clallam or the canyon?
Well, it's really a personal preference, on what people like and what they want to see. We have 80 miles of trout fishing here on the river, and about 16 public boat launches in between and lots of access to the river. So it really becomes kind of a personal preference whether you're taking a guide or, you're doing it on your own.
All right. Well, if you want to find out more, folks, just check out the website, WorleyBuggerFlyCO.com. That's WorleyBuggerFlyCO.com. Or just drop by the fly shop. It's right on Canyon Road, right next to I-90 in Ellensburg. Steve, thanks for the report.
Thanks, John. I appreciate you.
The Dalles in Oregon is your base camp for fishing fun. Reel in big salmon, tangle with steelhead, bass, and walleye, or wrestle a monster sturgeon to the boat. Plan your fishing getaway today at explorethedalles.com.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. Our next guest is Dac Collins. And if you think that sounds familiar, you're right. He's basically become the apex predator writer for outdoor life. And we've had him on talking about cougars in Colorado, wolves in Colorado, and now we've got an interesting story out of Wisconsin involving wolves. Dac, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on, John.
So, September 21st, Oneida County, Wisconsin, 3 teenagers are hunting ducks, and I understand that they were surrounded by a pack of wolves. Tell me more.
Yeah, that is what it sounds like. There's still some information coming out right now, but there was at least one witness there who was hunting. Again, this is public land in Oneida County. So this guy, Chase Melton, I believe he's 19 years old. He was with his 2 cousins, 13 and 14. And this is opening day, of Wisconsin duck season. So they had gotten out there well before dark. And essentially, they ended up becoming, according to, Chase and the witness who was nearby, they were basically had their blinds surrounded by about 5 wolves. There were a few more wolves kind of just in the general area. And, Melton's kind of gone on the record as saying he didn't want to have to do this, but he ended up, shooting one of these wolves at basically point blank range, within 5 to 10 feet of their blind. He shot it with his 12 gauge, killed the wolf, and then immediately reported it to the DNR. He did the right thing and kind of told the authorities about what had happened. And it's just a really crazy incident. I think he was clearly very rattled by it, and just kind of a wild thing to have happen duck hunting, not what these kids expected that morning.
No kidding. Now, folks, if you go to outdoorlife.com, you're going to find Dac Collins' article about this incident. And the hunter in question, one of his younger cousins, said there was a deer coming out. This is right around dawn, and it was a wolf, and it just kept coming closer and closer, and he finally fired when it came about 10 yards away from him. And according to the witness, these wolves weren't just sniffing or curious. They were very aggressive, weren't they?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like they were, howling, kind of barking at the blind and kind of growling at them. There was one wolf kind of coming in towards the back of the blind, another at the front. So I believe when Chase shot, there was, really 2 wolves pretty close to him. And, he shot the one that was directly in front of them as it kind of came towards the blind. I mean, lunged at them is the words that this guy Jim Lund said. Again, he was about a few hundred yards away hunting with his two sons when the shot was fired. So, he was shooting non-toxic shot, obviously waterfowl hunting, but, killed the wolf instantly. Interesting thing about this Melton brings up is that after it died, one of the other wolves from that pack came by and actually, drugged this dead wolf out of the water and into the woods. That's when Chase called the authorities. Also, just to back up a little bit, claims that he was, trying to haze these wolves off. I think he was, by his telling, yelling at them, kind of trying to scare them away. And then he just kind of, came to the point where he thought he had no other option but to pull the trigger.
Right. Yeah. In your article, you make it clear the firearm was not the first. And he's quoted as saying, I stood up and looked over and it was a wolf. I tried making some noise. I was clapping, stomping, breaking some sticks, whatever. This wolf turned at me and we locked eyes and it just started to come at us. Not like a walk, but like a jog almost. So, yeah, I completely justify, and I understand Wisconsin DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, agrees that this is a clear-cut case of self-defense.
It sounds like it. When I had reached out to them, this would have been, within 5 days of it happening. I'd talked to someone at the DNR, I talked to a spokesperson there, and other than the basic facts in terms of what time it happened, what day it happened, the fact that one of the wolves was killed and it was verified as a wolf, they were not really willing to say much at the time. It was still being investigated because gray wolves are still on the endangered species list. They're federally protected in Wisconsin. So, this investigation was immediately, I think, the state immediately brought in the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to deal with this. So when I had spoken with them on the September 26th, they basically said, we can't share any more details. We're going to investigate this. In the time since, I was looking into this a little more this morning, and I know that the DNR has gone on the record with another local newspaper. This is the Northwoods River News, and the DNR, told the reporter there that they have confirmed that it was self-defense. The federal marshals are still going to complete an investigation, but the State Department of Natural Resources says, yes, this was definitely a clear-cut case of self-defense. He was defending himself and two minor teens who were in the blind with him. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, what the feds do with this. We'll be kind of following it, but at this point, it sounds like at the state level, Chase will not be facing any, charges for his actions that morning.
I understand since the article was written that the witness in the case has come out with a little more information.
A little bit, yeah. Just a little more details, just talking a little bit more about the barking and the growling. He was hearing kind of the timing of everything. I think it was around, right at shooting light, 6 a.m., and he actually had a single wolf near his blind. So, there's 5 wolves over by these teenagers. There's another couple wolves milling around, one of them that came very nearby this guy Jim Lund's blind. So, yeah, he's just kind of corroborating exactly what Chase was explaining soon after the incident happened and just kind of telling it from his perspective, which was just a few hundred yards away, kind of hunting the same water body.
This behavior, I think a lot of people think that this happens all the time, but in reality, wolf attacks are very, very rare. As a matter of fact, looking at a list of fatal wolf attacks in the last 25 years, you have a young woman named Candace Berner, age 32, was killed in 2010 in Alaska, about 75 miles southwest of Kodiak, while jogging. She was mauled to death by a pack of wolves. And then Kenton Cargany, 22-year-old man who was out for a walk near a mining community in Saskatchewan in 2005, and he also was killed by wolves. But that's it. That's it in nearly 30 years, just 2 fatal attacks. So to hear this story, if the witnesses weren't there, I'd have a hard time taking this at face value. But like you said, the witness corroborates everything. So this is really rare, but very disturbing behavior.
Yeah, it's rare and disturbing behavior. And to your point there's definitely still going to be people on both sides of this. We're talking about wolves, so it's just automatically going to cause some controversy. There's a lot of people who, just like you said, if there wasn't a witness there, I think that it's just so rare for a pack of wolves to, approach someone in that way that, it's just seems, almost too crazy to believe. But it did happen. Wisconsin does have a regardless of how they're being managed at the federal level. There's, about 1,000 wolves in the state. I don't have exact numbers in front of me right now, but just, you can look at the DNR's studies there and get a rough idea. But yeah, there's a lot of wolves there, and there's a lot of conversations being had about what those effects are on the deer population in Wisconsin. The state keeps track of attacks on hunting dogs. That's kind of become a regular occurrence every year. These are packs of hounds that are typically, running bears and stuff like that.
Sure.
So obviously that's a little more natural for canine on canine conflicts to occur. But yeah, this is not normal, what you would call normal wolf behavior. I'm sure there's a lot of things we could look into to try to explain it, but it's definitely not typical Northwoods wolf behavior, that's for sure.
We've got about 30 seconds left. I understand you've got a very interesting article coming out of the state of Michigan.
Yeah, we're working with a writer there. Pretty cool story about a younger female hunter who is kind of on her way to becoming the second female hunter in Michigan history to pull off a Michigan Grand Slam. That's a record book: turkey, bear, deer, and elk. And the cool thing about this is that the first person to do it was her mom back in, I think, 2009. So, yeah, kind of a cool story about multiple generations and, a younger daughter kind of following in her mom's footsteps. So, some cool stories in the works over here. We always got some fun hunting stories this time of year.
Yes, you do. Well, get ready to check that one out at OutdoorLife.com and read the current story about that wolf attack in Wisconsin at OutdoorLife.com as well. Dac, always a pleasure to have you on America Outdoors Radio.
Thanks so much, John. Great talking to you.
Planning a day at the range or plinking targets with your friends? Or maybe you're looking to do some small game hunting with a rimfire rifle. Either way, they're going to be impressed when you show up with a Henry Golden Boy lever action rifle. This beauty has a brass light finish, a wooden stock and grip, and a blued 20-inch octagon barrel that makes this rifle handle great, and it is accurate too, especially for offhand shooting. Want to up your Golden Boy rifle game? You can order a deluxe engraved edition or one with a personalized inscription. Like every rifle manufactured by Henry Repeating Arms, this has a lifetime guarantee. Find out more about the world-famous Golden Boy rifle and order a free catalog too at henryusa.com. That's henryusa.com for Henry Repeating Arms, made in America and a proud sponsor of America Outdoors Radio.
Campers, adventure seekers, hunters, and foodies. No matter the lifestyle, we can all agree on one thing. Great food and great people are worth remembering. At Camp Chef, we don't just make grills. We create each product knowing that a warm meal is always better when it's shared with those we love. Learn more about Camp Chef grills, smokers, and portable cooking equipment at campchef.com. That's campchef.com for a better way to cook outdoors.
In today's news, I'm cooking a brisket. Let's go to Jill at my house to see how it's going.
This is your house and you brought me and the crew to check on your brisket?
That's correct, Jill. How's it looking?
This is a Camp Chef Woodwind Wi-Fi. You know you can check your cook right from your phone, right?
I didn't know that was an option, Jill. Well, never mind. But before you leave, can you feed the dog?
What? No.
When we get back, why is my check engine light on? The answer may shock me.
Sportsman's Cove Lodge is Alaska's best lodge, and as you know, I'm a big fan. I've been to Prince of Wales Island in southeast Alaska several times. I love the float plane ride in. I love the fishing for halibut, salmon, and cod, and I can't get enough of the fantastic food and dynamite hospitality that they offer at the lodge. Now they are building new accommodations, new rooms that'll have television. They've brought Wi-Fi to the lodge too, and they're even offering extended 7-day stays with not just fishing, but other adventures too, as well as the opportunity to have a corporate retreat. Find out more about Sportsman's Cove Lodge and book your stay today at alaskasbestlodge.com. That's alaskasbestlodge.com, and use the promo code RADIO10. That's Radio 10. Let me repeat that one more time. That's alaskasbestlodge.com and the promo code RADIO10 for 10% off your next adventure.
You know, a lot of times you have to choose between something high quality or something that saves you money. But if you could get both, why not? Especially when it comes to healthcare, and that is MediShare. You get both. Many families save $500 a month with MediShare, and that's huge. But it's also true that people wind up way more satisfied, too. The member satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. That's because MediShare works. It has for more than 30 years. It's a community of Christians who have shared more than $5 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth. They love the huge PPO network. So, yeah, really, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price in 2 minutes. Here's the number. Just call 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
You're back in with America Outdoors Radio. I'm John Kruse. I have been having a great time along the border of Idaho and Washington in the Lewis-Clark Valley. I've been steelhead fishing. I've been doing some hiking, some sightseeing. Folks, if you haven't been here before, you need to come. And while you're here, you need to explore North America's deepest gorge, which is not the Grand Canyon. It is Hell's Canyon. With us here to tell you more about this entire area and things to do this fall is Michelle Peters. She's the executive director and president of Visit LC Valley. That's Visit Lewis and Clark Valley. Michelle, great to have you back on the air.
Thank you. We have a great lineup of fall activities here in the Lewis-Clark Valley. Like you said, hiking. We have some of the best hiking trails, mountain biking trails, and it's a really nice time to come because it's not so hot like summer, so it's pleasant.
Oh, it is pleasant indeed. And, you know, you've got the changing colors. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of desert around here, but there's a lot of trees around here too. And I think we need to talk about the fishing a little bit, because the fishing here in the fall, especially during the month of October, is fantastic because you're not after just one species. You're after 3 different species.
Yes, you can go on a trip in one day, catch a Chinook salmon, a steelhead, and a sturgeon all in one day in Hell's Canyon.
Not only that, you got to throw in coho salmon too. They have recently come back, and folks, the fishing on places like the Clearwater River and the Snake River for all these species is great. I was out today. I caught a steelhead that was close to 19 pounds, my personal best. 2 other steelhead were caught in the boat. One was about 15 pounds. One was about 17 pounds. These are big fish, and they're called B-runs. Why don't you explain to our listeners what these B-run steelhead are that run so big?
So a steelhead is actually a trout, an ocean-going trout, and so they come back in cycles. Some of the A runs, they stay out in the ocean for just 1 year, but the big B run, 15 plus pounds, they stay out in the ocean 2 to 3 years and then return.
And they are massive, and they fight great, I'll tell you what, folks. So you can keep the ones that are fin clipped, the hatchery fish. And we were lucky. Today, all 3 of the steelhead we caught were fin clipped. So everybody got to go home with lots of steelhead fillets, and that was fantastic. And we should also talk about the sturgeon, something we didn't go after today. But sturgeon fishing is really a thing here. They get huge on the Snake River, don't they?
Yes, it's not uncommon to catch one 8 to 10 feet, a great white sturgeon. It's catch and release only, but the battle of reeling one in and getting your picture taken is just a lot of fun.
You know, I took my family here a few years back, courtesy of you, by the way, and we put together a show, took my family fishing. My son, his very first sturgeon he hooked, and he got in, was a 9-foot sturgeon. Beat my personal best by over 1.5 feet. So there are big ones here, folks, but if you get a really big one, you'll probably say one's enough.
Yes, your arms are definitely worn out after that.
And they're such cool fish. I mean, they are prehistoric looking, and they really do date back to prehistoric times. But they fight great, they pull hard, and you're going to be in for one heck of a fight if you want to go after one of these big sturgeon. And yes, it's going to be a great photo op when you get them in. So we've got the fishing for the salmon, for the steelhead, for the sturgeon. We've got the hiking, the biking trails around here. But you've got some really cool places to visit. Now, one of them we told our listeners about before, the Jack O'Connor Hunting Heritage Center. And if you are into outdoors riding at all, you know that Jack O'Connor is legendary, perhaps the greatest shooting and outdoors rider in the 20th century. And they've got a whole center dedicated to him here. But you've got some other places, too. The Nez Perce tribe has some really interesting places to visit.
There is. We're fortunate. The Nez Perce Park at Spalding, it's a National Historic Park. It's located about 12 miles to the east of here, and they have displays that are all through the entire region. There's 23 different sites where you can stop and visit before going to the actual visitor center.
We should also mention, and this is a giveaway, the names of the towns: Lewiston on the Idaho side of the Snake River, Clarkston on the Washington side. Yes, it's all about Lewis and Clark. The expedition passed through here. And you've got an interpretive center at Hell's Gate State Park that really does a great job of telling the tale of their journey through here.
They do. It has beautiful indoor and outdoor displays. And they also have a movie. It's a 20-minute movie of the expedition from the Bitterroot Mountains all the way to the Pacific Ocean. I think it's the most interesting part of the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Now, is this the same one I saw a few years back that has George Kennedy as a narrator?
Yes, that's the one.
It's a good one, folks. It might be a little dated, but it is a good one. It's definitely worth a watch. All right, let's talk about the biggest reason I think people come here in the fall and in the spring and the summer, and that's jet boat trips and rafting trips along the Snake River and Hell's Canyon.
Yes, they're very comfortable tour boats that have daily excursions on a half day or a full day, and they provide lunch. The captains narrate all of the history and geology, and you see a lot of wildlife along the way, mainly the bighorn sheep.
Yep, all sorts of wildlife indeed. Bighorn sheep, lots of deer. You might get lucky and even see a bear. There, you'll see those sometimes down by the river. And if you go in the spring, I know this is fall, but if you go in the spring, you'll see lots of flora that's there. It's really beautiful. But any time of year is a good time to go, and especially the fall, because like you said, it's not so darn hot. I'm pretty sure that's why they named it Hell's Canyon, is because it gets so hot there in the summer.
I completely agree. July and August are a little too hot, so the other months, it's wonderful. And right now, the sumac bushes are turning brilliant red, so the fall foliage is beautiful in Hell's Canyon.
And you've got all sorts of whitewater. You've got these towering cliffs on either side of you. And again, a lot of history. There's a lot of old homesteads here that are National Historic Sites now. There's just a lot to see and learn, and you'll really get a lot out of your visit. Now, the rafting's really not a thing this time of year, so jet boats are the way to go. And you've got jet boat companies that offer tours in both Lewiston and Clarkston, correct?
Yes, they go out of either city.
And we should also talk about a very unique tour that's available here from Beamer's Hell's Canyon Tours, and that is the U.S. Mailboat Run.
Yes, it's been going in Hell's Canyon since 1919. They deliver the U.S. mail to the area ranches. There's about 10 to 12 ranches in there right now. They'll also bring supplies for them. They run out of milk and bread, and it's a lot easier to have it delivered every Wednesday on the mailboat.
And folks, these ranches, you can't get to them by road. And I've been on the mailboat tour myself. You'll literally have a rancher ride their horse down to the river to pick up their mail for the week. And it's a weekly run, but it's really unique. And again, you get everything you get on the normal tour in terms of the narration, but you also get to see how people live. And you get to be helping deliver the mail, which is kind of a cool thing too.
It really is. And Beamer's Hell's Canyon Tours has carried the contract for the past 50 years. It's their anniversary this year.
Fantastic. Anything else folks should know about a visit to Lewis Clark Valley in the fall?
There's one other thing they might like, chukar hunting. They can do a combination of chukar hunting and fishing in Hell's Canyon.
That is a great idea. So if you like to chase birds uphill, whether for fun or for revenge, this is definitely the place to go. There's great chukar hunting to be had here. You can make it a cast and blast trip, fishing for sturgeon or fishing for steelhead or even salmon, and you'll have a great time. If you're in shape, this is definitely something to look at. What's the website folks should go to plan a trip to the Lewis Clark Valley bordering Washington and Idaho?
They should go to visitlcvalley.com.
That's visitlcvalley.com, visitlcvalley.com. Plenty of great places to stay and eat. Would highly recommend the Best Western Hell's Canyon Inn. That's where we're staying. Brand new facility. Absolutely beautiful. They got a great breakfast. And they've got the best little doggy suites you'll ever see. You open the door and you have your very own fenced-in enclosure with AstroTurf for your dog to take care of its business. You can't beat that. Michelle, thanks so much for your hospitality, and thanks for sharing this with us today on America Outdoors Radio.
Thank you.
Next up on America Outdoors Radio, we've got a story for you that we got from the Fishing Wire. It's about Wired to Fish, and wiredtofish.com is a great resource for anglers. Highly recommend it. And like many websites, podcasts, and other companies out there, they've got their own brand of coffee. It's Wired to Fish coffee. That's Wired 2 Fish coffee. And they got kind of a cool thing going with that. 7% of their net profit is donated to improve bass habitat. So buy some coffee and improve your bass habitat. Well, now they're taking coffee, known for its commitment for giving back 25% of its profits to water and fish conservation and faith-based initiatives, has announced a new charity partner, Grace Fellowship in Buffalo, Wyoming. Grace Fellowship has been raising money for a new building, which will house a church, a Christian school, and serve as a school of ministry to equip leaders and evangelists for small community outreach in the Rocky Mountain states. To date, Grace has raised $3.2 of the necessary $7 million required to bring the project to fruition. Mike Thomas of Wired to Fish Coffee commented, "This build is unique from the aspect that there is nothing like it in the United States. We love the vision that Grace has to put together a learning center that not only teaches kids about the love of Jesus, but also creates leaders that can then evangelize in the hard-to-reach communities around the United States. Grace Fellowship plans on breaking ground on this unusual but much-needed project within the next 6 months." Tip of the hat to Wired to Fish Coffee. That's something very special you're doing, not just for faith-based initiatives, but also for water and fish conservation. On that note, it's time to wrap things up. If you didn't hear the whole show, you can hear it as a podcast on all sorts of platforms. Just look for America Outdoors Radio. And with that, it's time to go. But here's hoping you are blessed in the days ahead, healthy, and that you're enjoying some of this beautiful fall weather. After all, it is your country and your outdoors, so get out there and enjoy it.
BackcountryHunters.org. Join the fight for our public lands and waters today.
Don't leave yet. We've got one more local shot of fishing and hunting to wrap up the Pacific Northwest edition of America Outdoors Radio.
It's time for another extended Max Minute. With us this week is Max Lure Pro Guide Shelby Ross, the owner of Ross Outdoor Adventures. He's got something very special he is offering from the beginning of the waterfowl season in Washington State, October 12th, through October, cast and blast trips where you go duck hunting in the morning and walleye fishing in the afternoon. Shelby, great to have you back on the air.
John, always great to be with you.
So why don't you break down these cast and blast trips for us at Potholes Reservoir in eastern Washington?
In October, we have really good duck action, but it's a morning shoot, and, by 10:30, 11 o'clock, your hunt is over, whether you admit it or not, barring some weather change. And it's also some of the best walleye fishing of the year, so we started a cast and blast deal, a dozen years ago, and it's been really popular, and makes for a really nice day to get a mess of ducks in the morning and then go get some walleye.
What happens in between is really nice, too. But, folks, I've been on this trip before, and Shelby's right. You're going to be shooting a real mixed bag of birds, everything from mallards to pintails to teal to widgeon to gadwall. And then you get a very special meal before you go walleye fishing or when you first start out walleye fishing. Why don't you tell us about that, Shelby?
Yeah, we do duck kebabs, and we do duck poppers, a chunk of jalapeno, cream cheese with a chunk of marinated duck wrapped in bacon, and it's a very nice part of the day, very popular.
I think it's the most popular part of the day for a lot of us, that's for sure. Now, as for the walleye fishing, I know you're usually trolling along the mouth of Crab Creek or the humps off the sand dunes, and you like to use one Max Lure product in particular, don't you?
I like to use a few different Max Lure products, but the Smile Blades, been the mainstay for years and years and years. I think more walleye are probably caught with a Smile Blade than any other method in the Northwest.
There are very few of these openings available, and they only take place in October. So if you want to take advantage of this, the website to go to is rossoutdooradventures.com. That's rossoutdooradventures.com. And if you're looking for a place to stay, look no further than Mardon Resort, because that's where you're going to meet your guide for your cast and blast trip. Website to go to, mardonresort.com. And if you want to stock up on Max Lure products before you go, simply go to maxlure.com or a sporting goods store near you to include the tackle shop at Mardon Resort. Book yourself a cast and blast combo. I loved it, and you're going to love it too. Thanks, Shelby.
Thank you, John.
That's all for this week, but don't worry. We'll do it all again next Saturday morning from 7 to 8, right here on Seattle's Sports Radio, KJR.